Two Russian cosmonauts are back in Moscow after an eventful journey in orbit and a difficult landing in Kazakhstan. Their return was postponed by more than a week amid safety concerns following the recent failure of a cargo resupply ship that fell back to Earth in late August. RT's Peter Olivers in Moscow's Star City Space Centre.
The two Russian cosmonauts that returned back to Earth on Friday have been talking about their experiences while on board the ISS. Now, they were up there for nearly 6 months, so as you can imagine, with only 4 days to get used to life back on Earth, it has taken some getting used to.
I was afraid my first moves on Earth would be clumsy and difficult, but it turned out to be not that bad. Controlling my body was challenging. I wanted to turn around, but I could only walk straight despite my intentions. It's much more stressful to land on Earth than to leave orbit.
Well, it was a very eventful 6 months that they were on board the International Space Station. There are 3 key incidents that occurred while they were up there. They were of course there for the Progress module that crashed, that was heading up to supply the ISS with food, with water, with oxygen, and they talked about how that affected them on board. We've spoken at great length about it from here on the Earth, but they were saying in terms of food and water and supplies, it didn't affect them too much. However, it did affect them in terms of their experiments that they were doing. There was equipment that was being carried on the Progress module that was intended to help them conduct those experiments that are going on up in space to make our lives here on Earth all that better. Unfortunately, the loss of that equipment hindered those experiments. Now, they were also up there for the final docking of the NASA space shuttle, and the space shuttle Atlantis docked on the 8th of July and left on the 8th of July, I beg your pardon. That was the last time for it. Now, the cosmonauts were saying that this was a very, very sad experience. It was quite similar in their eyes to when the Mir space station finally fell out of commission, a real end to a chapter in space exploration history. Now, the main celebration of their time when on board the International Space Station was, of course, Yuri's Night, the 12th of April, 50 years since Yuri Gagarin set off to become the first man in space. Now, that was, of course, hugely celebrated on board the space station, the International Space Station, containing people from Japan, people from America, of course, Russians as well, during that celebration. So they were, it was a real international affair, and this is what the cosmonauts were saying.
It's especially nice to know that countries other than Russia respect this holiday. We received lots of warm wishes and greetings. Like true Russians, we took pride that Yuri Gagarin was our countryman. Our ship was called the Gagarin, so the flight was filled with a holiday spirit.
So while Alexander Samokhutyaev and Andrei Borishenko get used to life back here on Earth, they recognise the celebration that was Yuri Gagarin's first flight 50 years ago. From Star City, Peter Oliver, RT.